Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Setting boundaries is one of the most important yet challenging things a person can do. It is an act of self respect, self love, and self preservation. Many people grow up believing that saying no or distancing themselves from certain individuals is selfish, but the reality is quite the opposite. Boundaries are essential for maintaining mental, emotional, and even physical well being. Without them, you risk burnout, resentment, and a loss of identity. Learning to set and maintain healthy boundaries is not only necessary for personal growth but also for establishing healthy relationships with others. One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that they are meant to push people away. In truth, boundaries are about defining what is acceptable and what is not in your interactions with others. They help create a balance between giving and receiving, ensuring that you are not constantly drained by the needs and expectations of those around you. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting others, you are simply affirming your own worth. You are making it clear that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable and should not be taken for granted. Unfortunately, not everyone will respect or understand your boundaries. Some people may react negatively when you start asserting yourself because they were used to having unlimited access to you. They may accuse you of being cold, distant, or uncaring. However, this reaction often stems from their own inability to set or respect boundaries in their own lives. When people are accustomed to taking from you without restriction, your decision to set limits can feel like a personal attack, even though it is not. Setting boundaries is particularly crucial in relationships that have become toxic or one-sided. There are people who only reach out to you when they need something, who drain you emotionally without giving anything in return, or who manipulate you into always prioritizing their needs over your own. In such cases, choosing distance is not just an option, it is a necessity. Continuing to engage in these relationships without boundaries will only lead to exhaustion and emotional harm. Recognizing when a relationship is harmful and having the strength to step away is a powerful act of self-care. Another important aspect of boundaries is that they allow you to regain control over your own life. When you fail to set limits, you may find yourself constantly doing things out of obligation rather than genuine desire. You may feel pressured to say yes when you want to say no, to attend events you have no interest in, or to engage in conversations that leave you drained. By setting boundaries, you reclaim your autonomy, you begin to make choices based on what is best for you rather than on the expectations of others. It is also important to understand that setting boundaries is not a one-time action, but an ongoing process. People will test your limits either intentionally or unintentionally. Some will push back, hoping you will revert to your old patterns of overextending yourself. This is why consistency is key. Once you establish a boundary, you must stick to it. If you waver or make exceptions too frequently, people will learn that they can disregard your limits and still get what they want. Maintaining boundaries requires confidence, patience, and sometimes even the willingness to walk away from relationships that refuse to respect them. One of the most liberating realizations you can have is that you do not owe anyone unlimited access to your life. You are not obligated to be available at all times, to answer every message immediately, or to accommodate others at the expense of your own well-being. You have the right to protect your space, your peace, and your energy. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries, even if they do not fully understand them. Those who resist or try to guilt-trip you into compliance were likely benefiting from your lack of boundaries in the past. Ultimately, setting boundaries is a form of self-care and empowerment. It is about recognizing your own value and refusing to let others dictate how you spend your time and energy. When you choose distance and people become upset, it is often because they can no longer take advantage of your generosity. Their frustration is not a reflection of your wrongdoing, but rather of their own unwillingness to accept a healthier, more balanced dynamic. And that is their problem, not yours. When you decide to create distance from certain people or situations, not everyone will understand your decision. Many individuals equate constant presence with love and care. So when you step back, they may interpret it as abandonment or indifference. This misunderstanding is often rooted in their own experiences and beliefs about relationships. Some people are conditioned to think that true connection requires constant interaction, even if that interaction is unhealthy or forced. As a result, when you start prioritizing your own well-being and setting boundaries, they may struggle to accept your choice. One of the reasons people fail to understand your need for distance is that they view relationships through their own perspective rather than considering yours. They may not recognize the emotional exhaustion or stress that certain dynamics have caused you. If they have always been comfortable with how things were, your sudden change in behavior might confuse or frustrate them. They may assume you are acting out of spite, when in reality you are simply choosing peace over unnecessary drama. Their inability to see your side of the situation does not mean your decision is wrong. It simply means they are looking at it from a limited viewpoint. Another factor that contributes to this misunderstanding is entitlement. Some people feel entitled to your time, energy, and presence simply because of the role they play in your life, whether as friends, family members, or colleagues. When you withdraw, they may take it as a personal offense. Rather than recognizing it as an act of self-care, they believe that just because they have always had easy access to you, they should continue to have it indefinitely. This sense of entitlement can lead them to question your intentions and even try to guilt-trip you into returning to the way things were. There is also a societal expectation that people should always be available, especially in close relationships. From a young age, many of us are taught that maintaining relationships requires constant effort and sacrifice. While compromise is important in healthy relationships, it should not come at the expense of one's mental and emotional well-being. The idea that choosing distance means you do not care is a flawed belief that overlooks the reality that sometimes stepping back is necessary for a relationship to remain functional. Taking space does not mean a relationship is over. It means you are creating the conditions for it to be healthier. It is important to acknowledge that people's reactions to your distance often reveal their true intentions. Those who genuinely respect and care for you will take the time to understand your decision, even if they do not fully agree with it. On the other hand, those who react with anger, resentment, or manipulation may have been benefiting from your constant availability in ways that were not fair to you. When someone only values you when you are easily accessible, but turns against you the moment you prioritize yourself, it becomes clear that their concern was never about your well-being. It was about their own convenience. Additionally, some people resist change even when it is necessary. They may prefer familiarity even if it is unhealthy. When you distance yourself, it forces them to confront the reality that relationships evolve and that people outgrow certain dynamics. Instead of adapting or reflecting on their own behavior, they may choose to blame you for disrupting their comfort zone. Change is uncomfortable, and rather than embracing it, some people lash out in frustration, trying to pull you back into the patterns that you are actively working to escape. Another reason your choice to distance yourself may not be understood is that people project their own fears and insecurities onto the situation. They may assume that if you are pulling away, it means they have done something wrong or that they are no longer valuable to you. This is not always the case. Sometimes distance is about self-reflection and healing, not about punishing others. However, when someone has their own unresolved fears of abandonment or rejection, they may struggle to see your decision objectively. Instead, they react emotionally, assuming the worst without considering the bigger picture. Ultimately, understanding is not a requirement for choosing what is best for yourself. People are entitled to their opinions, but you are entitled to your peace. You cannot force others to see your perspective, and you do not have to exhaust yourself trying to make them understand. Some will accept your decision with grace, while others will resist it. Either way, your choice to distance yourself is valid, regardless of whether others approve or not. One of the most common reactions when you choose distance is that people will try to make you feel guilty. They will say things like, "You've changed," "You don't care anymore," or "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" These statements are designed to make you question your decision and feel like you are in the wrong. Guilt is a powerful emotional weapon that people use to regain control over a situation they feel they are losing. When they see you setting boundaries or pulling away, they resort to guilt tripping as a way to manipulate you into staying in a dynamic that benefits them, even at your own expense. Guilt is especially effective because it plays on emotions like obligation and responsibility. Many of us were raised to believe that we owe loyalty to certain people no matter what, whether it's family, old friends, or even colleagues. There is an unspoken rule that cutting ties or creating distance is a form of betrayal. This is particularly true in cultures or families where self-sacrifice is expected. The moment you choose yourself, you may be met with phrases like, "Family always sticks together," or "Real friends never walk away." But the truth is, loyalty should not come at the cost of your own well-being. If a relationship is harming you, you have every right to step away, no matter how much guilt others try to place on you. People who use guilt as a control tactic often frame themselves as victims. They may act as if your decision to step back has devastated them, even if they never made an effort to be there for you when you needed them. They will highlight every favor they ever did for you, every moment they were present, while completely ignoring the times they took advantage of you, disrespected you, or made you feel unappreciated. This selective memory is intentional. It is meant to make you feel indebted to them, so that you will return to the role they want you to play in their lives. Another common tactic is shifting the blame onto you. Instead of acknowledging their behavior or taking responsibility for the way they treated you, they make it seem like you are the problem for walking away. They will say things like, "You're being too sensitive," or "You're overreacting." By dismissing your feelings, they try to make you question whether your boundaries were necessary in the first place. This is a classic form of gaslighting, where they attempt to make you doubt your own reality so that you will go back to the way things were. It's also important to recognize that guilt tripping is often a learned behavior. Many people do not even realize they are doing it, because they were raised in environments where emotional manipulation was normalized. They might have grown up seeing parents, teachers, or elders use guilt to get what they wanted. Because of this, when they feel like they are losing control over someone, their instinct is to use guilt as a way to reel them back in. Understanding this can help you see that their reaction is more about their own insecurities and conditioning than it is about you personally. However, just because you understand why they do it does not mean you have to tolerate it. One of the hardest parts of dealing with guilt as a control tactic is that it often works, at least temporarily. Many people who set boundaries initially feel strong in their decision, only to waver when they are met with guilt. They start second guessing themselves, wondering if they were too harsh, if they should give the person another chance, or if they are being unreasonable. This is exactly what the manipulator wants. They know that if they push hard enough, you might feel so bad that you end up doing what they want just to relieve the guilt. But giving in only reinforces the cycle, making it harder to break free in the future. Breaking free from guilt-based control requires a shift in mindset. You have to remind yourself that prioritizing your well-being is not selfish. It is necessary. Just because someone is upset about your decision does not mean you did something wrong. Their feelings are their responsibility, not yours. You are not responsible for fixing, saving, or constantly accommodating people who do not respect your boundaries. The more you remind yourself of this, the less power guilt tripping will have over you. At the end of the day, guilt is only effective if you allow it to be. When someone tries to use it against you, take a step back and ask yourself, am I truly in the wrong, or is this person just upset that they can no longer control me? More often than not, the answer is the latter. Recognizing this will help you stand firm in your decision, despite the pressure to give in. One of the hardest things to accept when you choose distance is that you don't owe anyone an explanation. Society teaches us that whenever we make a decision that affects others, we must justify it, seek approval, or at least offer an excuse. But the truth is, your life is yours to live, and you do not have to explain every choice you make, especially when it comes to protecting your peace. Whether you choose to distance yourself from a friend, a family member, or an entire social group, that decision is yours alone. If someone demands an explanation, it is often because they feel entitled to a say in your life, not because they genuinely seek to understand you. One reason people expect explanations is that they believe they deserve closure. While closure can be helpful in certain situations, it is not always necessary, and it is not always your responsibility to provide it. Some people use the idea of closure as an excuse to drag you into unnecessary conversations where they can argue, guilt trip, or try to change your mind. They don't truly want an explanation. They want an opportunity to manipulate you into undoing your decision. If you sense that someone is demanding an explanation not for understanding but to regain control over you, it is okay to withhold it. Another reason you do not owe an explanation is that some people will never accept it, no matter how well you articulate your reasons. You could sit down, explain your thoughts with perfect clarity, and they will still twist your words or refuse to acknowledge your perspective. Some individuals do not want to understand. They just want to argue. They may try to poke holes in your reasoning, insist that you are overreacting, or make it seem like you are making a big deal out of nothing. In these cases, no amount of explanation will change their mind, so why waste your time trying? It is also important to remember that some decisions cannot be explained in a way that others will understand because they are based on personal emotions, experiences, and intuition. Sometimes you don't even fully understand why you need distance. You just feel that it is necessary. Explaining something you yourself are still processing can be exhausting and even counterproductive. You do not need to justify a feeling or an instinct. Trusting yourself is enough. Additionally, explanations can sometimes weaken your stance. When you start explaining yourself, you may feel pressure to soften your words, make excuses, or present your decision in a way that makes it more palatable to the other person. This can lead to unnecessary negotiations where you end up compromising on boundaries you initially felt strongly about. By skipping the explanation, you avoid the risk of being talked out of a decision that you know deep down is the right one for you. Another thing to consider is that not offering an explanation is a powerful way to assert your independence. It sends a message that you are in control of your own life and that you do not need permission to do what is best for you. Many people struggle with setting boundaries because they feel they must always justify them to others. But once you realize that you can make decisions without explaining yourself, you take back your power, you stop seeking validation and start living for yourself. This does not mean you have to be rude or cold when creating distance. If you want to offer a brief explanation, you can, but it should be on your terms. A simple statement like, "I need to focus on myself right now," or "I'm making changes in my life that require space," is more than enough. You do not need to go into detail, defend your reasoning, or convince anyone that you are making the right choice. A person who respects you will accept your decision, even if they do not fully understand it. Ultimately, explaining yourself is optional, not mandatory. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries without demanding justification. And those who don't, they were never really concerned about your well-being to begin with. They were concerned about their own control over you. Choosing distance is often an eye-opening experience because it reveals who truly values you and who was only interested in what you could provide for them. When you take a step back, whether for your mental health, personal growth, or simply to regain control over your life, people's reactions tell you everything you need to know about their true intentions. Those who genuinely care about you will respect your need for space, while those who are only benefiting from your constant availability will react with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulation. Distance is not just about creating space for yourself. It is also a test of who actually respects you as an individual. One of the biggest realizations that come with creating distance is that many relationships were built on convenience rather than mutual respect. When you were always available, always saying yes, and always prioritizing others over yourself, it was easy for people to keep you in their lives. But the moment you stop overextending yourself, you start to see who is only keeping you around because it was convenient for them. If someone truly values you, they will not suddenly disappear or become hostile when you set boundaries. They will understand and give you the space you need. Some people will react to your distance with resentment because they feel entitled to your time and energy. These individuals were never truly invested in you as a person. They were invested in what you could do for them. Maybe they relied on you as their emotional support system, their problem solver, or their constant source of validation. When you remove yourself from that role, they become frustrated, not because they miss you, but because they miss the benefits of having you around. This is a painful but necessary truth to accept. Another sign that distance exposes is how much effort people are willing to put into maintaining the relationship. When you stop reaching out first, do they still check in on you? When you stop making all the plans, do they take the initiative to see you? True relationships, whether friendships, family connections, or romantic partnerships, are built on mutual effort. If someone only stays in your life when you are the one doing all the work, then the relationship was never truly balanced to begin with. When you step back, you allow the other person to show whether they were invested in you or just taking advantage of your willingness to give. Creating distance can also reveal which relationships were built on obligation rather than genuine connection. Some relationships only exist because of social or familial expectations. People remain in them not because they truly enjoy each other's presence, but because they feel they have to. When you start distancing yourself from these relationships, you may notice that certain people put in no effort to maintain the connection. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It simply shows that the relationship was never strong enough to survive without obligation holding it together. Letting go of these forced relationships can be liberating, allowing you to focus on the connections that are truly meaningful. Another important thing distance reveals is who respects your need for self-care. Some people will try to shame you for stepping back, accusing you of being selfish or uncaring. But those who genuinely value you will understand that sometimes you need to prioritize yourself. They will not pressure you to explain your choices or make you feel guilty for putting yourself first. Instead, they will offer support, even if they don't fully understand your decision. The way people respond to your boundaries tells you everything you need to know about their level of respect for you as a person. It is also worth noting that distance often strengthens the most genuine relationships. If someone truly cares about you, they will not take your need for space as a personal attack. Instead, they will be patient and trust that when you are ready, you will reconnect. Some of the best relationships are the ones that can withstand periods of distance because they are built on trust rather than constant proximity. The people who truly value you will not pressure you to stay in touch 24/7. They will understand that true connection is about quality. Ultimately, when you choose distance, you gain clarity. You see who was there for the right reasons and who was only there out of convenience. You learn which relationships were built on mutual effort and which ones relied entirely on you. Most importantly, you come to understand that the people who genuinely value you will respect your decisions, while those who only wanted to use you will reveal themselves through their reaction. Distance does not ruin real relationships. It simply exposes the truth of the most frustrating yet eye-opening realities of creating distance, is that some people only begin to respect you when you are no longer easily accessible. When you were always available, always answering calls, always making time for them, always prioritizing their needs over yours, they may have taken you for granted. They may have assumed that no matter what they did, you would always be there, but the moment you step back and remove your constant presence from their life, they suddenly start to acknowledge your value. Unfortunately for some people, respect is not freely given. It is only realized through absence. This happens because human nature often makes people take familiarity for granted. When something or someone is always available, it is easy to assume that it will always be there. People become comfortable with your presence, your effort, your kindness, and your willingness to be there whenever they need you. They do not stop to consider what life would be like without you because they assume that you will never leave. But when you choose distance, you disrupt that assumption. Suddenly, they are forced to recognize the role you played in their life, and for the first time they feel the void that your absence creates. Some people only realize your worth when they no longer have the ability to take advantage of it. When you were constantly giving, whether emotionally, mentally, or even financially, they saw it as something they were entitled to rather than something you were offering out of generosity. But the moment you remove yourself, they are left without the support system they once relied on. It is only then that they begin to appreciate everything you contributed. However, by the time they come to this realization, it is often too late. This pattern is common in relationships of all kinds: friendships, romantic partnerships, and even family connections. There are people who will ignore your feelings, dismiss your concerns, and overlook your needs when you are present. Yet the moment you withdraw, they suddenly want to listen. They suddenly remember how much you meant to them. This is not because they have had a change of heart. It is because they are now faced with the uncomfortable reality that they lost something they thought they could always have. It is important to recognize that this kind of behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but rather of their inability to appreciate what they have while they have it. Some people are simply wired to respond to loss rather than gratitude. They do not express appreciation when they should. They only feel regret when it is too late. They may come back with apologies, with promises to change, or with sudden declarations of how much they miss you, but these reactions are often born out of a fear of losing access to you rather than a genuine change of heart. Some individuals will even attempt to regain your presence, not because they truly respect you, but because they miss the benefits of having you around. They miss your emotional support, your kindness, your loyalty, but not necessarily you as a person. This is why it is crucial to distinguish between someone who truly values you and someone who only values what you can do for them. If they did not respect you when you were present, their sudden change of behavior after you step away should not be mistaken for genuine appreciation. One of the best lessons you can learn from choosing distance is that true respect is shown in your presence, not just in your absence. If someone only starts treating you with respect after you leave, it means they were always capable of doing so, but chose not to when they had the chance. Real respect is consistent. It is not something that only appears when someone feels like they are losing control over you. Those who truly respect and appreciate you will do so before you step away, not just after. This is why distance is such a powerful tool. It separates those who truly value you from those who only value what they can get from you. When you step back and people suddenly start acting differently, it tells you everything you need to know about their intentions. The real ones will respect you, whether you are near or far, while the others will only wake up when it's too late. One of the biggest hurdles people face when choosing distance is the fear of what others will think. The pressure to explain yourself, to avoid being judged, or to prevent people from misinterpreting your actions can be overwhelming. But at the end of the day, your peace is far more important than their opinion. No matter what you do, people will always have something to say, so you might as well do what is best for your well-being. Living your life based on how others perceive you will only keep you trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing, leaving little room for your own happiness and mental clarity. People who do not understand your decision to step away will often assume the worst. They may label you as selfish, uncaring, or even ungrateful. They may spread rumors, twist the truth, or try to convince others that you are in the wrong. But their perception of you is not your responsibility. You cannot control what they think, and trying to prove your innocence or justify your actions will only drain your energy. At the end of the day, those who genuinely know and respect you will not be swayed by petty gossip or false narratives. It is important to remember that many people project their own insecurities onto others. When someone reacts negatively to your decision to distance yourself, it often has more to do with their own fears than with you. They may feel abandoned, exposed, or threatened by your growth. Your decision to prioritize your peace forces them to reflect on their own behavior, and some people do not want to face that reality. Instead of acknowledging their role in why you needed distance, they shift the blame onto you. This is a defense mechanism, not a reflection of the truth. The moment you stop worrying about what others think, you free yourself from the invisible chains that have been holding you back. Imagine how much lighter your life would feel if you no longer carried the weight of other people's opinions. Instead of making decisions based on how others might react, you could focus on what truly makes you happy. Your energy could be spent on personal growth, self care, and meaningful connections rather than on damage control or unnecessary explanations. The more you detach from external validation, the more peace you will find within yourself. One of the greatest signs of self respect is prioritizing your own well being over external opinions. There will always be people who disagree with your choices, especially when those choices challenge their expectations of you. But your life is not meant to be lived according to someone else's script. If prioritizing your peace means disappointing people who only valued you for what you could provide them, then so be it. True peace comes from knowing that you are living in alignment with your values, not from gaining approval from people who do not have your best interests at heart. Many people stay in toxic situations simply because they are afraid of what others might. They stay in unhealthy friendships, one-sided relationships, or even toxic family dynamics out of obligation, guilt, or fear of judgment. But the truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always have an opinion about it. You could sacrifice your happiness to keep others comfortable, and they would still find something to criticize. Once you realize that pleasing everyone is impossible, you will stop trying, and in doing so you will find peace. Choosing distance is an act of self-love. It is recognizing that your mental and emotional well-being deserve protection, even if that means upsetting people who expected you to prioritize them over yourself. Not everyone will understand, and that is okay. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your decision even if they do not fully comprehend it, and those who do not, their opinions are irrelevant to your journey. You do not need approval to protect your peace. At the end of the day, opinions fade, but your peace stays with you. The people who judge you today will find someone else to judge tomorrow. Their words and criticisms are fleeting, but your mental and emotional health will affect you for years to come. When you choose yourself, you are making an investment in your long-term happiness. And that is far more valuable than any temporary approval from people who do not understand your journey. One of the most difficult yet necessary lessons to learn in life is that you are not responsible for how others feel about the boundaries you set. When you choose distance, whether to protect your peace, escape toxicity, or simply regain control over your own life, some people will not take it well. They may feel hurt, rejected, or even betrayed. But their emotions are not your burden to carry. Setting boundaries is not about punishing others. It is about protecting yourself. If someone refuses to respect your boundaries and instead tries to make you feel guilty for enforcing them, that is a reflection of their lack of respect, not of any wrongdoing on your part. People who struggle with boundaries often try to shift the blame onto you. They may accuse you of being selfish, distant, or inconsiderate, when in reality, they are simply upset that they can no longer benefit from your lack of limits. Instead of respecting your decision, they focus on how it makes them feel, as if their discomfort is more important than your well-being. But setting boundaries is not about making others happy. It is about creating a life where you feel safe, valued, and at peace. Their feelings are theirs to manage, just as your well-being is yours to protect. Guilt is a common weapon used by those who dislike boundaries. When people realize they can no longer have unlimited access to you, they may try to manipulate you into changing your mind. They might bring up past favors, reminding you of everything they have done for you, in an attempt to make you feel obligated to stay. They might tell you that you are hurting them, exaggerating their pain to make you feel responsible, but no matter how much they guilt trip you, remember this: your boundaries are not an attack on them, they are an act of self-care. If someone truly cared about your well-being, they would not make you feel bad for protecting it. Another common reaction to boundaries is anger. Some people respond with frustration, even rage, because they see your newfound limits as a form of defiance. They are used to having access to you whenever they want, so when that access is taken away, they lash out. They may call you names, accuse you of changing, or even try to spread negativity about you to others. But their anger does not mean you are wrong for setting boundaries. It simply means they were benefiting from a version of you that no longer exists. When someone gets mad at you for protecting your peace, it says more about them than it does about you. Some people will also try to test your boundaries to see if you truly mean what you say. They may ignore your requests for space, continue to push your limits, or try to wear you down with persistence. They assume that if they keep pressuring you, you will eventually cave in and go back to the way things were. But the moment you allow someone to break a boundary you set, you teach them that your limits are negotiable. That is why it is so important to stand firm no matter how much pushback you receive. Boundaries only work if you enforce them consistently. It is also crucial to recognize that not everyone will understand your boundaries, and that is okay. Some people simply do not have the emotional intelligence or self-awareness to grasp why you need space. They may take your decision personally, assuming that your distance is a sign of hatred or resentment rather than self-preservation. But you do not need to explain yourself to those who refuse to listen. You are not responsible for making them understand. The people who truly respect you will accept your boundaries without requiring an extensive explanation. One of the most empowering realizations is that you do not owe anyone unlimited access to you. Just because someone wants your time, energy, or attention does not mean they are entitled to it. You have every right to decide who gets to be in your life and under what conditions. Setting boundaries does not make you mean, selfish, or unkind. It makes you self-respecting. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and if protecting your peace means limiting who has access to you, then that is a choice you have every right to make. At the end of the day, the way people react to your boundaries is their responsibility, not yours. You are not responsible for managing their emotions, soothing their egos, or making them feel comfortable with your decisions. The only thing you are responsible for is honoring yourself, your needs, and your well-being. Those who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries, even if they do not fully understand them. And those who do not respect them, they were only comfortable with you when you had none.